Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Christina and today we're talking about my Pan That palette for 2022. So I know I'm a little preemptive in this video. Well, I guess I'm not too preemptive. We haven't quite done our finale yet. I'm pretty sure, again, I'm in the middle of like pre-filming a bunch of videos for you guys, so I'm not exactly sure when this is going up, but I'm pretty positive this is going up before my finale for the Pan That palette in 2021, which if you are familiar, you know we are panning the Persona Identity palette, which I won't show you, so it won't spoil anything for later on. But this has been my palette all year for Pan That palette. I asked you guys a while back if y'all wanted me to either keep this palette and roll it into the new year or pick a new one, and overwhelmingly a lot of people said a new one, and I agree. I think it would be nice to kind of like freshen it up and just try something new. What I've learned this year through Pan That palette is that the smaller palettes like this guy do a lot better for me. Palettes like the Zodiac palette from BH Cosmetics I don't think would be a good candidate for me because there's just too many shades, and I find that that would probably be overwhelming. I was sitting and looking at my collection of eyeshadow palettes and I was like, you know, it'd be fun. Let me go over some palettes that I'm considering for Pan That palette for 2022 and then get you guys to weigh in with your opinions, and we're gonna cast a vote. It's a democracy here. We're voting, everyone. But I have 5 palettes that I'm considering for Pan That palette in 2022, and I would love for you guys just to leave a comment down below with whatever you want to say, of course, but also vote for what palette you think would be the most fun to see or the most successful, or whatever you think you're most interested in for Pan That palette next year. So here are the 5 palettes that I am considering for next year. We're gonna go through each one. I'm gonna tell you why I'm considering these and my general thoughts. I'm not really leaning towards one more than the other right now. I could see these all potentially being good. Let's just go ahead, let the candidates come up now. The first palette that I'm considering is this guy. This is the Colourpop Dream Street with Kathleen Lights. The main reason I was considering this is the size is obviously very similar to the Persona, so I was like, oh, that'd be good. But this is also an older palette in my collection, so I thought it would just be nice to kind of get some more progress in this. For it to be older, I only have 1 pan in it currently, this little shade down here, which I'm pretty sure was because it was in a Pan That eyeshadows like 2 years ago. So this palette has just been in my collection for a really long time. I would love to just have more love on this palette. I do adore it, so I'm surprised there isn't more pan, if I'm being 100% honest. I figured, why the heck not? This could be a really good option. It has neutrals, it has some pops of color, and then like the shade that we already have hit pan on is just such a fun shade, you know? Like, it's like silvery, but also kind of like champagne-y and blue undertone. It's a cool shade. So I think it would just be fun to play with that one more. For the most part, it's really neutral, which you guys know. I love a good neutral palette. It's just really nice for me to wear. Like, the shimmers are just really pretty. Those honestly look so similar swatched, don't they? But I figured I could probably get a lot of use out of this one as well, which ultimately is the goal for Pan That palette. So let me know if that is the one that you want to vote for. Second palette that I'm considering is another small one. For the most part, all of these are really small with only like a limited amount of shades. This is the Violet Voss Essentials Pro Series palette, and this one is also relatively neutrally, but it has a lot more pops of color. So there's like these pinks, this purple, this black shade, which I think would be really fun to attempt to do. I don't use black too often on my eyes just because I feel like they close me off, but I could maybe make a lot of progress with that for a liner. It also has these neutrals up top and then these pops of like the gold and the emerald. And for the most part, I really like this palette too. Oh no, I just dug my finger in it. Tragedy has struck. You klutzy girl. Look at the damage. Gouged it. I have purple eyeshadow all under my thumbnail. Anyways, it has these pops of color in it. The emerald and the gold, again, are really, really pretty and different. And I feel like we could do a lot with those. I mean, those are really pretty shimmers. The mattes in this palette perform really well. So I like Sand and Dusty Rose. I just feel like I could probably spend a lot of time with this, create some really interesting looks with this, and it would just be interesting to see how much progress I could get in here. There is absolutely no pan existing in this palette right now, so it would be really like satisfying, I feel like, to see a lot of pan in something that has none. Third palette is one that I think will probably catch people off guard that I want to do, but it's the Alamar Cosmetics Volume 1 palette. It's a very summery palette, so this may be like a long shot and maybe not the best. It just screams summer to me, which part of it is probably the packaging, but it just has really nice mattes. Like all 4 of these mattes are beautiful. The only shade that I'm really hesitant about, and if you guys remember, we had this palette in a Pan That eyeshadow series, again, I think like 2 years ago. I don't like this blue. So that would be my only caveat. If I did this palette, I would not want to touch that blue. I don't like it. I may just scrape it out. I dislike it so much. That's always an option if we want to do this one. But literally every other shade in here I would be fine using. I just don't like the blue on me. I just feel like it makes me look dead. It's not my favorite. But literally everything else in here I really like. These 2 top shades, this like light champagne and this light green are stunning. Look at that. And then like the orange matte shade is really, really pretty. Like, actually that orange is kind of similar to that Violet Voss one as well. But I just feel like I could get a good varying amount of looks with this as well, and it is a little bit more exciting than a neutral. Again, the caveat would be is that I would remove the blue entirely from this equation. I just, again, don't like that shade. So I wouldn't want to pan something that I know I actively dislike, but everything else would be on the table, so this is also a good one. It's also a small palette with limited amounts of shades, so it wouldn't be too overwhelming, and I feel like they could transition pretty well through most of the year. The last 2 palettes that I'm gonna mention are the more ambitious palettes, and they're if I want to really go for overachiever status. This next one is breaking my rule of small palettes, so I'm going against what I know, but I figured this could be a really fun one to try because it has no pan in it currently. So this is the Makeup Revolution Soph X palette, and it has a lot. It has 24 shades in it. Has 24 shades in it, literally absolutely no pan. And for the most part, it's relatively neutral. There's a lot of shades in here that really lend themselves to looking very similar. So I could see that being a little bit discouraging, but it could also be that it's easier to layer because of that. And so I end up getting more bang for my buck as far as like more shadows are being used at once, rather than having to pull in supplemental palettes to like deepen up a look or anything. So like what I mean by that is like this quad right here of browns, all relatively similar shades, but maybe different enough that they can be used together and make good progress in that way. Swatches weren't the most impressive. I mean, they're all very, very similar. That could go 1 or 2 ways. It could be very discouraging, or it could be a really nice challenge to try and do these. And again, there are more shades in here than just neutrals. There's a good many like pinks and oranges over here. There's some greens in the middle, some purples, and then like a whole row of neutral browns and bronzes. I feel like it could work, but yeah, this is definitely the most ambitious one out of all of the 5 that I'm mentioning today because it has the most shades, and there is not even a dent really in any of these yet. I don't pull this palette in very often, so I feel like it could be really, really nice to try and make some progress. I feel like if we did this one, it'd be smarter to do like, we would like to hit like a certain amount of pan in this. Like we want to hit not all 24 pans. This definitely wouldn't be a completion palette. Like we wouldn't be able to finish entire shades. This would definitely be let's hit pan on something instead. So maybe instead of doing all 24 pans, we would focus and be like, okay, our goal for the year is to have 12 pans in this, or 10, or some number that I can't think of right now that would make more sense for this. That could be the way we do it if we choose this one. But either way, it still would be very, very ambitious, I think. And then last palette is also ambitious, but for an entirely different reason, because this one is flippin' colorful. So this is the Juvia's Place Zulu palette. I love this palette. This is the most out of my like everyday comfort zone because I don't wear colorful eyeshadows very often. Luckily, these shadows lend themselves really well to being wearable color. Like you can do them by trios and the colors work so well together that that could be a really good option for me. This again wouldn't be a completion palette because the pans are ginormous, but I would love to see some actual pan in this. Just some silver pan action would be nice to see in this. Give it some love because I do really like this palette, but it is definitely not a completion palette in any way. This one scares me the most though because of the color. So yeah, between this one and the Soph X one, these two are the ones that are the most challenging for me and the most scary to consider because of how, well, the Soph X because of how many shades, and then this one because of how much color. But it's just such a stunning palette. Like oh, this green is like beautiful. The purple, I mean, you guys know how I feel about purples. Like they're just such nice shadows. This shade just does something for me. It's just so pretty, and that green is so pretty. I just don't know, you know? Is she a little intimidating? The last one to be considered, one that kind of terrifies me as far as how challenging it would probably be, but so much fun if we could actually hit pan on all of these. Definitely, again, not a completion palette, but just to hit pan on. That's the last one in the running, and I think they all have similarities in so many ways as to what we can do with them next year, but definitely different amended goals for each because they would all bring their own kind of challenges or limitations in a lot of ways. Definitely let me know down in the comments which ones you're leaning towards and if you think that any of the stipulations need to be amended for the ones that you're choosing, because I think that's the hard part. I don't think all of these can be looked at in the same way like we did this year's project pan. I just don't think all of them would be even viable to even try to attempt to finish entire shades. Probably just hitting pan on the majority of these. I think the ones that lend themselves the most to being completion palettes are the Dream Street and the Alamar palette. And then the other three, I would say, because they have the least amount of use on them or they're the biggest and the most challenging, these would just be to hit pan, just even if it's a tiny little minuscule pan, I'd be happy with that for these. So that's probably how I'm gonna look at it. It definitely goes along with how you guys like to watch your Pan That Palette series as well. Do you like to see things completed or do you just like seeing pan happening? So again, those are the 5 candidates for next year, the Pan That Palette 2022. I am leaving it up to you guys. Whichever one gets the most votes is the one that I will be doing, and you guys will be seeing the introduction at the beginning of the year, which is only gonna be in a couple weeks from this point, or in a few weeks from this point, so you guys will know what it is shortly. But yeah, put those votes in, let me know. Tell me I'm probably crazy for putting a couple of those in. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, definitely make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Also make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. I do upload on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I don't want you guys to miss out on any of my videos. And remember, there is always magic to be found, and I hope that means I see all of you in my next video. Bye!
Alright, ooh baby, just hold tight. We're up at the moonlight, believe in the magic. On side, we'll make it feel just right. Just look at that bright light, believe in the magic. And we can save you from